Okay, here we go. This is a continuation of Chapter 7. We're going to finish Chapter 7. I'm going to do today 7.2. Then after this, I'll do 7.3. And then I'll do 7.18. They're kind of lengthy problems. The premise of this chapter, remember, is activity-based costing. It has a very simple premise. You take money, you put it in a numerator, and you divide it by a denominator that you think has, again, a cause. The denominator should cause the numerator. Miles driven causes gasoline purchased. Miles flown is related, again, to the cost of jet fuel. I don't know, let's use another one. Number of students at a college drives the cost. Let me see, that would be the number of students would be in the denominator. The cost would be food in the numerator. You try and, in activity-based costing, you try and get the cost in the numerator and an activity in the denominator, and you try and use as fair a system as you can, and as accurate. Not just fair, but accurate. They really should be one and the same. Fairness and accuracy should overlap in most cases. In some cases, it might not. Anyway, we had already done the first exercise, exercise 7.1, and that dealt with the issue of just what triggers a cost. Is a cost a batch level cost? Is it a unit level cost? Is it a product level cost or a customer triggered by customers? Or is it organization sustaining, which means your author says you shouldn't allocate those? I don't particularly agree. I think you can come up with a way to allocate everything. Most of the companies I work for that used ABC did. They were clever enough. You get out there with clever people, they'll find a way to take a cost and allocate it fairly. It's not insurmountable, doing that. It's very solvable in most cases. Anyway, this is the exercise 7.2, and this deals, I couldn't put the whole problem on the board, so I had to write up here. The 7.2 begins on page 339, I think. And on 339, it says, the company's name is Security Corp. It operates a fleet of armored cars. Armored cars, big trucks. I don't know why they call them armored cars. They really should call them armored vehicles, because they're armored trucks. Anyway, let me change that. I don't know what it bugs me. Armored trucks. And anyway, these armored trucks, they have money in them. Cash, obviously change, but that is why they're armored. They want to implement an ABC system. Now, they've already looked at their company, and to do an ABC system, you just say, well, what do we think, what's fair to charge a customer for? When a customer calls you, you'd say, well, you know what, we should again, and they look, this company's Security Corp, said, well, what about if the customer's far away? That big truck, that heavy-duty truck, that armored truck, it costs a lot of money to drive that. So let's use one pile of money is how much it costs to get a truck driven there and back. And trucks are very expensive. So let's have a pool that relates to traveling. And related again, the denominator is going to be miles. Let's have another pool called pickup and deliveries. Can you see it? The two men or the two women get out of the truck. They have to take money in, take money out, record all kinds of forms, again, and talk to the customer. Then take it down. They probably have to have weapons. They have to have, probably truck dollies, and maybe even for a big bank, they might have to have more than a truck dolly. They might have to have, maybe a hydraulic lift. But anyway, the pickup and deliveries take time and take, bookkeeping. Customer service is simply time spent on the phone working with the customers, and sometimes it's spent by the men and women who bring the money, but anybody who's talking to a customer trying to help them and arrange deliveries. By the way, can you see the cost of this pool? Customer services, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. And then other. Other's what your author is going to call organization sustaining. Organization sustaining, that's his word. It's not my word. I wouldn't use it. I'd just call it unallocable. But anyway, he likes to call it organization sustaining, so we'll do that. Anyway, this is, now think about this, is just their current costs. Again, this is not at all new information. This company just says, hey, this is what we had over the last year. This is last year's costs. And they're using them this year to set up, again, charges. But they said, last year we spent $720,000 on, again, paying drivers, men and women drivers and their guards. We spent $280,000 on the vehicles. That's depreciation on the vehicles. That's gas, wipers. I mean, again, think about this. What's in that? The gas to run the truck, the oil to run the truck, maybe wipers. They probably got to get those all the time. They got to wash the trucks. They got to get tires for the trucks. Again, all these things. This might be the registration for the trucks. This might be the insurance. Can you again see, these are what these companies are dealing with. All these costs, $280,000 to run those trucks. What's the driver and guard wages? Just what it says. Again, that's one's not too bad. Vehicle depreciation. Well, those big trucks depreciate. They depreciate when they're running, and they even depreciate when they're setting. There's two types of depreciation. Do you guys agree that if you own a very expensive car, you go out and buy it, even if you never drive it, it depreciates? Every year, our society just simply has concluded that even if a vehicle sits, it's worth less every year it gets older. I think that my personal opinion is because it really does. Simply put, even sitting, something gets, and also technology is progressing. So it's becoming somewhat obsolete. If you let a computer sit for 10 years, it's worthless, so even if you never touch it. Customer representative salaries and expenses. The customer reps, that is their salaries. Expenses, that'd probably be, think of all the expenses for those guys. You'd probably give them a laptop. You'd probably give them, what else? Probably a car to drive. They travel in planes. They might have, what else? A phone. You give them the phone because, again, they're calling the customers all the time. So laptops, car travel, and you might have a desk, for them when they return to their home base. Office expenses, that's the same thing. There's going to be, computers in there, printers. There's going to be people, their salaries in there. Again, a copy machine, paper, toner, all that stuff. Administrative expenses, the same thing down here, but the salaries will probably be more expensive. And here's all their costs, $1,630,000. Now they're really saying, how can we take all this money and again, come up with a way to charge people, to allocate or charge people in a fair way? And they've already decided, we're going to charge people the way the costs are driven. Activity-based costing. These activities drive our costs, and they think these are the activities. When they travel, that truck consumes gas and oil and tires. When they pick up a delivery, those men and women run around picking up that money and distributing the money. Customer service, when they're talking on customers. Again, trying to meet new customers, trying to get new contracts and land new clients. And then other, going to the bathroom, filling out forms, who knows what's in there. Breaks. Well, how do you allocate this? Well, in real life, you really do go and talk to people. You might say, what do you mean you talk to people? Well, you go talk, see these drivers and guards? You say, I'm going to go talk to them and I'm going to ask them. And I say, hey, driver and guard, how much time do you spend traveling? And the driver guards, they talk a little bit, and they say, about 50% of my time is spent driving to and from clients. And you say, how much time do you spend on, giving the client, picking up the money and delivering the money? And they say, well, about 35% of my time. They'd probably give it to you in hours, and you'd have to calculate the percents. How much time do you talk to customers? And they say, oh, not too much. We talk to them a little bit about what they might need or if they need an extra pickup. And how much time do you spend in the bathroom or filling out forms or whatever? And they say about 5% of my time. So that's how you get it. When you go down and you ask, you might ask the drivers about the vehicle operating expense. And they would tell you, well, when I operate the vehicle, about 70% of the gas and the oil is consumed in travel. And then there's about 5% that's consumed in delivery because we turn it off. Let's say that most of the time they turn the truck off, so that way they don't spend that much. The truck is sitting there idle. Now sometimes they run it when it's really cold, because again, if they don't, it might not start. Customer service, well, the truck, again, has nothing to do with that. And then the truck depreciates, let's say 25% of its depreciation is just occurring, when it's sitting in the garage. So they allocate it this way. And they do that for everything. Whoops, that's vehicle operating expense, like I said. But the vehicle, you shut it down, and like I said, I don't know why the vehicle, that might be, again, they're driving. This is when they drive it. This is when they're traveling to and from the clients. But this might be when they're driving it to get the windshield wipers put on, get it washed, get it tuned up. They might do it to go get fuel, again, that other 25% of the time. maybe they're even driving it for the company for some purpose. I won't do all of these because you can get them, but you see, you're going to go, if you go talk to the people, the customer reps, and you say, customer reps, how much time do you spend traveling, again, to deliver, money? And they say, none. How much time do you spend picking up and deliver to the customer? They say, none. How much time do you spend? 90% of my time, I spend what? Pursuing customers. And 10% of my time, I spend, maybe in the restroom, or again, filling out forms or filling out orders. But you get the idea. That's really how you decide where the money goes. You have to talk to people. Now we're going to allocate this money to these pools. Once we get the money in the pools, we're going to divide by, what do you think? In this case, in travel, we'll divide by miles. In pickup and deliveries, we'll divide by the number of pickups and deliveries. In customer service, we should divide by hours provided to customers, but we're not. We're just going to divide by the number of customers, which is really dumb, but that's okay because your authors, if this is a 100-level class, I know it's 212, but it's still a 100-level class to me. Anyway, your author's just going to use the number of customers, which is really a poor base, but still it gets the idea. And other, we're not going to divide that by anything because we're not going to allocate that. We will have to charge that to the customer. Again, you got money, you got to charge the customer. So this is what when you get done coming up with a bill for the customer, you have to add this other in there, how much you've left out. I'll show you that maybe later. But in this problem, it asks you, again, one, would you complete first stage allocations? And first stage allocations just mean try to take the money that we're spending and put it in some meaningful pools. And after you put it in those meaningful pools, divide it by, again, usually you divide by how many you did of last year. In other words, how many miles did you drive last year? How many pickups and deliveries did you do last year? How much customer service hours, or in this case, how many customers did you have? You don't have to divide by anything in that other column or organization sustaining. But that's exactly what we're going to do. And now it just comes down to math. And you say, all right, I'll start with, again, this first one. Let's just take it from here, 720,000. Let's write it down here, 720,000. 720,000, travel is going to be 50%. So over here, do you see my travel? 50% of 720,000 is 360,000. All right. How much is 35% of 720? I don't know. 3 times 7 is 21, isn't it? 3 times 7, and then 2 times 5 is 10. Is that going to be 220,000? I think so. Hang on a second. Let me just make sure I don't make any mistakes on this. Yeah, 252,000. That's right, 252,000. 252,000. Yep. Okay. Let me see here. 10% of 720,000 is 72,000. And then 5% of that will be 5% of 72. That'll be 36,000. 36,000. Now all these should add up to 720, and if I've done my math right, they will. Let's do again another one. Let's bring down 280 as the vehicle operating expense. $280,000. All right. I want to allocate that to my pools. 7 times, what is that? 2 times 7 is 14. 7 times 6, that's 196, I think. 196,000. So 196,000. Again, that's 70% of 280. 5% of 280 is going to be 14,000. 0%, I can do that. 0. 25% of that, what will that be? Let's see. 25, 50, 60, 70,000, I think. Yeah, 4 times 7, yeah, 70,000. 70,000. All right, let's go down here to vehicle depreciation. Vehicle depreciation is $120,000. And let's allocate it to the pools. 6 times 12 is 72. So I'll put that 72,000. In other words, I think that 60% of the time, again, in this case, vehicles are doing what? They're depreciating during the travel. So that's 72,000. Now 15% of that, yeah, that's going to be $18,000, I think. 18,000. Okay. 0, I can do that. 0 for customer. And then 25% of the 120 is 30,000. 30,000. All right, customer rep salaries. How do we allocate those? Customer rep salaries, how much are they? Customer representative salaries, that's 160,000. 160, and this one looks 0, 0, and then 90. All right, I think I can do that. 0, 0, and then 90. What is 90 of that? 90, that's going to be 90, I think it's 144,000. I'll check my numbers at the end, but I think that's 144,000. And then if that's not 10% of that will be 16,000. How about office expense? Office expenses, let's bring those down. That's 30,000. And again, 30,000, 0, 20, 30, 50. 0, that means 0 of office expenses. Okay, my video goes off about every 15 minutes because there's a 4 gigabyte limit on taping video, especially in a camera. If you use a camcorder, you can go beyond that, but a small camera like I'm using. I don't know where it cut off, but let's just go back. I'm sure that you saw me allocate some of these. I allocated the remainder of them, and then I came back and totaled them. Let me do write this down over here. I'm thinking about 605. I'm actually writing down 605. That's when I think my camera will go off. Anyway, so I allocated all these out using these percentages. Now I totaled them up. And the totals are the total of the pools. These will add up, by the way, if I put another column out here, and I cross-foot these, we'll get this, 1,630,000. That's important, 1,630,000. We didn't lose any dollars. In other words, all the dollars are still there. They've just been allocated. 1,630,000, that's what it takes to run the whole company. Now, the next stage is, and by the way, we're done. This is actually it. We are done with exercise 7.2. But the author is, again, trying to give you this in stages, but what we would do next is, of course, and I think you'd guess this, we'd go back and divide by miles. Let's say you drove 1,000,000 miles. If you drove 1,000,000 miles last year, this rate will come out to be 62, well, about 62 cents a mile, really 63. Let's just change that to 63. So you're going to charge the client 63 cents for every mile. Let's say, again, last year you did 20,000 pickups and deliveries. Well, if you divide this, 20,000 pickups and deliveries, that would have been $30. I think it's going to be $60. $60, about $61. I think that would come out to be 61. Let's just see though. 306. How did that come out so different? Let me try that again. 306. No, I sure was wrong on that. Neither that. Okay, that's way off. This should be 306,306 divided by 20,000 pickups and deliveries. You'll get $15. You know what? That's why I thought that. I'm going to do 10. Nah, I'll do that. $15.30 every time you do a pickup and delivery. What about the customer pool? Let's again say you have 400 customers. Well, if you have 400 customers, divide that in there. I don't know, let's say you have 4,000 customers. That's not very many customers, especially for pickup delivery. Let's do 417,000 divided by 4,000. That's $104 that you're going to charge every customer annually. You wouldn't charge them all this in one chunk, but you'd allocate it over the years somehow. And then this NA, no allocation. But if somebody called you up to see how this is a very effective system, if they said, yeah, you're going to have to drive, let's again say that a client calls you and let's say it's someplace like Disney World. I don't know, I can't, Disneyland is somewhere near LA, isn't it? I don't know where it's at, to tell you the truth, I've never been. Been to Disney World, but not Disneyland. But anyway, let's say Disneyland really wants you to do all their pickup and deliveries. You see, you're going to have quite a bit of travel. You might have to drive, 400 or 500 miles a week because it's big and they have to go to many locations to get the money. So you say, I'm going to charge them 63 cents every time I drive a mile. Every time I do a pickup and delivery. Can you think of all the places in Disney that's going to want you to come and pick up the money? Well, you're going to have to go to the, I don't know, all those different rides. I guess I can't really think of any. The log ride, I don't know. The Jungle Cruise. The Jungle Cruise. You're going to have to go to the Jungle Cruise and pick up the money, and all the eateries and all the restaurants, you have to pick up the money. So every time you do a pickup or a delivery, $15.30, and then annually you're going to charge them $104.25. I suggest you would allocate that. Now, whenever you charge them for a job, you're going to have to add those costs in somehow. You can't ignore. You'll have to take, this is your cost. You're going to have to mark it up. Remember, if you say, that again, using these, it costs me $500, for any client, well, you're going to have to make it $800 or $900 to cover these costs that you didn't allocate and to make a profit. I really, in all honesty, I'm dying to go on and show you how we would really do that. But on this problem, it's not required. We are truly done with exercise 7.2. And by the way, this was called first stage allocation. When we really take these rates and charge the customer, we're going to call that second stage allocation. And that's when we're really going to bill. Anyway, I'm going to shut the camera down for a minute, and I'm going to set up for exercise 7.3. Okay. Okay, here we go on exercise 7.3. All right, exercise 7.3, exact same topic, different company. We're still doing ABC costing, chapter 7. This is chapter 7, page 342, exercise 7.3. This is another company, but this one I really like. This one appeals to me because when I was a kid, I used to cut lawns for anybody who would hire me, basically. Anyway, this one's called Green Thumb Gardening, and they're a small gardening service. And they have just decided to implement an activity-based costing system. And they want to implement that so that, you see again that, you want to come up with something, how can I charge people? By the way, they do more than just cut lawns. It looks like the proprietor, that's the owner of the company, believes that costs are driven. In other words, he thinks again, when he's spending money on his lawnmowers, on his tillers, on his blowers, on his weed whippers. Again, all that equipment, he's saying, what drives my costs? Well, he's got an idea here. Usually, the owner of a business has a very good idea of what their costs are driven by. And I will tell you, in many cases, what we learn, if you take a businessman or woman who've been in a business for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they know all this. And they don't have to go through college. They've learned it the hard way. They've gone out there and spent so many years that they just know in their mind what drives costs. But why do it that way? If you get a college degree, you already kind of have an idea. You know that, again, instead of just going out there and hoping that you understand, that you can actually come up with a methodical way to try and really compute the best cost for something. Anyway, it looks like here it says this guy believes that the size, the size, this is one pool, he thinks the size of customer lawns. Do you agree with that? The bigger the lawn, the more the tractor, the more the gas, the oil. The size of the customer garden beds, all right. The bigger the garden bed, the more they have to till it, the more they have to put herbicides on it and fungicides. The distance to travel, once again, the further away, the more I got to drive a truck. Now I got a trailer, I got all kinds of equipment. And it also says in the number of customers. The more customers he has, again, the more he has to have his wife. Let's say he has his wife, and she does everything with the customers. And the more of her time it takes, the more customers she has. In addition, it says the cost of maintaining garden beds depends on whether the beds, now this is interesting, are low maintenance or the beds are high maintenance. So again, I would guess that a low maintenance garden bed is something where, I don't know, it would be something simple, maybe just some simple, easy to take care of flowers. A high maintenance one would be where they have to till it, they have to put herbicides on it, they have to put, I'm not even sure what a herbicide is, but But anyway, a fungicide, I don't know what that is, but they have to put fungicides and herbicides. So the high maintenance takes much more expensive chemicals. Let's say fertilizers they have to put on there, and they have to till it, and they have to pull the weeds. Let's say the high maintenance beds have simply more exotic plants. You know, people that are wanting to grow something that, again, is harder to maintain, and if they don't, it'll die. It'll die of a fungus or weeds. Anyway, so they've got low maintenance garden beds and high. It does say that the high maintenance have exotic plants in them. Accordingly, the company uses 5 activity costs below. So they do use, again, let's take a look, they've got 5. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, lawn care. Now, I'm just really going to call that lawn mowing, but lawn. Then they got garden bed, pool, low maintenance. They got garden bed, high maintenance. They have travel, 2 jobs, and customer billing. Well, what do you think again? If he's thinking in his mind, this is what, again, causes me to spend money. On mowed lawns, I gotta have tractors. I gotta have weed whippers. I gotta have edgers. I gotta have blowers. And I gotta have gas and oil and blades. For garden beds, he's gotta have tillers. And he's gotta have, let's again say, certain sprays and fertilizers. And he's gotta go in there and de-weed them. For garden beds, high maintenance, he has to have all the same things, but let's even say more exotic chemicals and longer hours, and they have to de-weed them more. Travel to jobs, he's got to have a truck and a trailer, and he's got to have maintenance of tires and gas. Customer billing, he has to have his wife, he has to have a Xerox machine or a copy machine, a printer, toner, an office area, computers and ways to talk, phone. So all these this is money, and he sees it. He says, oh, I'm spending all this money. And he says, you know what, this is what I think drives my cost. Can I charge the customer? And he says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use what? The square feet, the size of a lawn. That's going to be, you see, this is going to be division. All these, we're going to take this money and we're going to divide. I wish I would use this one. How about this? I like this division symbol better. We're going to take all this money and divide by all these. These are your cost, ABC costing. Costs, drivers. ABC, activity drivers. Square feet of low maintenance, square feet of high maintenance. Still, do you see though, the bigger the garden bed? Now you do have to differentiate when you get there. You have to say, is this a easy garden bed or is this a hard garden bed? You have to do that, meaning the owner. And then miles, that makes sense for travel to jobs. And number of customers, this is crummy. Again, I think they should really divide by, he should ask his wife. He should go ask his wife, says, how many hours did you spend last year talking to those customers? And then divide it by hours spent with customers. Because his wife will be the first one to say, that's a crummy way. And the reason it's a poor way is because that assumes that every customer uses exactly the same time. And his wife will say, there's no way. Some of those customers drive me nuts. And some of those customers are very easy. And his wife will say, do not divide by the number of customers, divide by time spent with customer. So his wife would probably agree on that. Anyway, you can see again that this guy has a very good idea. And I don't know if they ever give us the name of the guy. Anyway. But he says, you know what I want to do is I want to get all I want to do is get the numerators and now the denominators. Now where would he get the numerators and denominators? In real life, he's going to go back and he'll either look on, he can go back to last year and he can look at all his charge cards and get the money he spent. And he can look at the charges and put them in the pools. Or he can go back and get his checkbook if he runs his business through his checkbook. Or maybe his checkbook and his charge card. But he can get all the money and drop it in the pools. Now, in this problem, he's already done that. He did first stage allocation. He went back to his checkbook and went to his charge card and dropped all the money in the pools. And I've got to shift this down so you can see it. All right, and give me a second, I got to erase. These won't line up now. This that didn't line up. But he's got them in the pools. And he said, all right, I went through my checkbook, and sometimes each check, you can just look at each check and each charge. And now, let's say you spent $500 on gas during the year. Well, you're not going to take the whole $500 and put it in. By the way, here's what he did. He said, here's my cost pools, same ones. Here's carrying for the lawn. Here's garden beds low. Here's garden beds high. There's travel to jobs and his customers. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pools. And he's got the money. But let's say he spent $3,000 on gas last year. Well, he'll really just say, you know what? I know that out of the $3,000, I use 70% of my gas mowing lawns. So it takes 7 times 3, that'll be $2,100 he'll put in here. And then he might put the other money, he'll just look at it and he'll say, I know, I run the business. I know exactly how much of my gas money, not exactly, but he'll have a pretty good idea. Say, I'm going to put 70% of it in mowing lawns. And let's again say in the caring for garden beds high, he'll put a 20% in there and only 10% in the low maintenance. Because let's say the low maintenance, he hardly ever has to till or do any blowing. Sometimes after they pull the weeds, they might blow them out with a blower. Anyway, he's already allocated all the money. And you see, he's got himself, again, $72,000. $26,400 is allocated to garden beds low maintenance. He allocated $41,400 to high maintenance garden beds. And then travel to jobs was $3,250. And then again, the time his wife spent. And let's again say that he actually agrees. That's part of that money is for toner and copiers and computers for his wife. But part of that, let's say he's going to give her some money, a salary, because she deserves it. Anyway, like I said, think about each one of these. Caring for the lawn. Well, again, that's going to be your lawnmowers, weed whippers, fertilizer spreaders, maybe sprayers for weeds. Again, the depreciation on those, gas, oil for the mowers, blades, the caring for the garden beds. And by the way, you're going to have the labor, the man or the woman's labor in there. Caring for the garden beds, a lot of the same things, have tillers. Maybe you use tillers and blowers, and you use a lot of sprayers and chemicals. You know, those 5-gallon sprayers you might wear on your back, and you'd spray herbicides and fungicides on those things. Travel to jobs. That's, again, the depreciation on the truck, the depreciation on the trailer. That's going to be the truck registration. That's going to be truck insurance. And it's going to be oil changes and maintenance on the truck. Customer billing, that's all his wife. Think of an office. And again, he can actually even take some of his heat and light and utilities from his house and put it in there. But he also should put some of his wife's salary in there. Okay, now he does that. He takes all these costs and he goes through and he sees and he allocates them to these pools. And then he says, all right, now I also went back and he has to get the denominator. This is the numerator. He's got the numerator right here, estimated cost. This is the pool. This is the money. And now he's going to divide by, again, the ABC costing. This is the C, this is the A. And again, the B is the connection between the two. This is the activity, we're going to divide it into the cost. It's based on activities. Now he goes out and he says, well, I need to know how much square feet of lawn. You know what he does every time? He just goes out and walks them off, Again, he steps them off. When he gets to the lawn, it's 3, 6, 9, 12, and then he does it that way. And he multiplies the two, to get the square footage of each lawn. So he's got that from. Now, again, same thing for garden beds. When he gets to an easy or low maintenance garden bed, he walks it off, steps it off, and gets the square footage. I've really hired people, and that's really what they do. They come and look at your lawn, and they step it off. Sometimes they won't step it off. Sometimes they'll just take a look at it, and they've mowed so many lawns that they just say, I know that lawn's going to cost you $50. I've just mowed so many that they're the same size. But again, if it's anything different, they'll get out and actually step it off. Or they might even have, they're only about $20 at Menards, but it's a wheel, and it measures feet. And you just roll the wheel, and it'll give you a very accurate measurement. So they might have one of those. I doubt it, though, because most of the time they just step it off. Anyway, then travel to jobs, he just, again, watches his odometer from last year on his truck. And again, customer billing and service, his wife tells him how many customers they have. Again, his wife would much rather have that last one be hours spent with customers, but he's not going to do that. Let's divide it and get the rates. Take $72,000 divided by 150,000 square feet. So 72,000 divided by 150,000 square feet. Oops, yeah, that is 150,000. That's 48 cents per foot. All right. let's do caring for garden beds. $26,400 divided by 20,000. 26,400 divided by 20,000 square feet, that's $1.32. So now we have $1.32 per foot to maintain a low maintenance garden bed. Now let's do a high maintenance garden bed. Do you see it almost doubles and there's less square footage? This is going to come out more. It's 41,400. 41,400 divided by 15,000. That's going to be $2.76. So it's almost about triple. $2.76 per foot. All right. Let's do the travel to jobs. $3,250 is the cost of his truck and depreciation and gas and oil and wipers. Divide that by 12,500 miles. That's not too bad. 3,250 divided by 12,500. That's equal to 26 cents. So this is equal to 26 cents per mile. All right, and finally, let's do this last one. Customer service, $8,750 divided by 25 customers is equal to 300. This is equal to $350 per customer. All right, now that's what the author has asked us to do in this problem. We're done. The author has said only one requirement. I want you to get, in this case, we've done first stage allocation. The guy that owned the business he took the money and put it in the pools. That's first stage allocation. Then we computed the rates. We said, let's take the money and divide it by the activities, the activity drivers. And we got 48, in other words, we now know that every time we mow a foot of lawn, it costs us 40 cents, 48 cents. When we do gardening on low maintenance, it costs us $1.32 to again till and put on sprays and fertilizers. Anyway, and it costs us annually $350 per customer. Now, that's the end of this problem, but let's just go ahead and do one more thing. Let's do a hypothetical. Let's say I come to this guy and I say, you know what, I want you to cut my lawn. I call him up and I say, I got a 2,000 square foot lawn. I want to have you cut it. And he says, all right, and his wife says, let's say I took his wife and she says, it's 48 cents a foot. Okay, 48 cents a foot, and I believe 2 times okay, so let me go back, pick up where so his wife says, oh, and let me get my marker. I called and I say I want a 2,000 square foot lawn mowed, and his wife says, all right, 2,000 square foot, 48 cents is what we charge. And that'll be $9.60. And then, okay, how many miles do you live? And I say I live 4 miles away, so 4 miles there, 4 miles back is 8 miles. Times how many miles do we charge? We charge 26 cents per mile, so 26 cents. That will be, I think, $2.08. And then let's say also I'm a new customer, so a customer costs $350, so one new customer times $350 is equal to 350. And again, then we add all this up, I think it comes to about $1,317.08. But let me double check that. 960 plus 2.08 plus 350, $1,312. Okay, $1,312.08. Now, if you're, of course, watching this video and you're thinking, you've just taught me the worst system in the world, because only a fool would, what kind of a system is it that, again, is this outrageous? I mean, this is way off. There's no way anybody's going to pay $1,312.08 to get their lawn mowed once. So this thing has gone totally awry. well, we did this in good conscience, we got good numbers, why didn't it work out? Well, many times when you get done with something, you have to really understand the numbers. You have to kind of, first of all, go back and use your instinct to say, does that make sense? And I would say out of the 3 numbers we've got up there, only this one makes sense. This again, we'll put an M here. This makes sense, about $2 or $3 to get that truck there, but $350 for customer service? Well, hold it, that doesn't make sense at all. But let's think about what we did here. Again, we took the annual. This is everything the wife spends. His wife spends $8,750 and her salary's in there too, and dividing that by the number of customers, this is annual. That's the annual cost to maintain a relationship with a customer. And I'm just looking for what? 1 mowing. So we really can't use this the way it is. This is, again, if I decide to be a customer for a whole year. So we might go off to the side and say, let's take the 350, and let's say I talk to my wife, or he does, and she says, yeah, I talk to customers about 20 times a year. Well, 20 times a year, let's see, that's going to be about $1,750. Each time she talks to a customer, again, it in general costs $1,750, so that's more reasonable to say, listen, I realize this is an accurate cost, but it's for the whole year. What, again, is the cost for every time you chit-chat with a customer, and again, you're trying to get their order? Well, let's go back and say that's about $1,750. Now, what about this? This looks crazy. $960. 48 cents. I want you to think about that. You get your mower out, and you mow 1 square foot. Bam, you got 48 cents. That's pretty high. You go another foot, and you got $1. You go 20 feet down there, you've got a couple $100. There's no way that it really does generate that kind of cost. I want you to again think about what we did here. We took the annual cost, all his gasoline, oil, trucks, weed whipper, blowers, put them in a numerator and divided by square feet. These are annual costs, but do you catch it? Those aren't annual square feet. Those are all the square feet he mows. But do you guys see that he mows these many, many, many times? In other words, this is the square feet mowed once, because he stepped it off. This isn't the square footage of something. If you really want to get an annual denominator, and you want to get an annual numerator and match an annual denominator, you got to take this and multiply it. Let's again say something like this. Times, he mows, let's say again he mows 7 months out of the year. He mows 4 times a month. That's 28. We need to take 28 times the square feet because he mows the same square feet over and over again. Anyway, we can do it another way. We can really say this is the cost to mow 28 times a year. Divide this by 28. This is an annual cost to mow a 2,000 square foot lawn. So let's go back and take 960 divided by 28 times that you mow a lawn, and that comes out to be $34. So divide that. Let's take again $960 divided by that, and I just said it was $34. Now let's see if we get something reasonable. 34. All right. So 34, 35, 36, 46, 53. I think it's going to come out to be about $53. And whether that's right or not, it might not be, it might not be perfect. Let's just see again. 34 plus 2.08 plus 17.5, 53, 58. So 54, 53, 58, $54. That doesn't add up perfectly. Well, let's say the wife says, I need $54 to cut that lawn. And I say, well, that's not bad. I'll go ahead and do it. Again, by the way, that includes cutting, edging, trimming, again, blowing the grass or collecting it. So, do a really good job. Now, if I hired a neighbor kid, I might pay him $40. Because if I hired a neighbor kid to do the lawn, I might say to them, you don't have to edge it and blow it. But again, that's not a bad price, $54. But my point is, whenever you get done doing something, many times when you get the information, you have to really think about it. You have to think, well, I did this right. I know this is the annual cost, and that's on my square feet. What's wrong? Why can't I use that? Well, because that is square footage. but you mow the same square footage again and again. So you got to divide all the annual cost by all the square feet. So you'd say, I'm going to take that times 7 months, times 4 times a month. That means I'll really take it times 28. 28 times this, whatever that is, it'll come out probably over 1 million. In fact, I'm sure it will. You'll mow over 1 million square feet, again, because it's repetition. And this will come out to be something like 1 penny or 2 pennies a foot. But like I said, this is the answer, but I wanted to take it one step further and show you that, again, when you actually apply it, you're always going to have to use common sense in life, and that's hard. Because, again, I think you just, I took college, why doesn't this work? Well, nothing really works easy. You really have to sit down and think about it. And this is one of those times when you have to think about it. By the way, why did our miles work? We didn't have to adjust those. Let's think about it. Where was the travel to jobs? 3,250 was all the gas, oil, that he used in his truck, and wipers and washing it. Do you see the miles, the way an odometer works? The odometer works that if you drive someplace again and again and again and again and again and again, it captures it. The odometer wouldn't have that problem. The odometer will capture, if you drive to your friend's house 50 times, the odometer will capture all 50 times. But the square footage didn't capture that. Now, if you had an odometer when you walked and when you mowed a lawn, if you had an odometer on your wrist or something, it would capture it. But he just stepped it off. So again, this base really represents the square footage for one time. And it doesn't represent that he does the same square footage. But the money represents a year's worth of times. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. All right, I'm going to shut down for a second, and when I pick back up, I'm going to do exercise, it could be problem. I don't know if it's problem or exercise, but it's, I think, 18. It's a big one, and I'm probably going to base the test question. I'm going to have a problem on the test from this chapter, and I think I'm going to base it on 718. Anyway, give me a minute, and we'll get back to 718. Okay, this is the last problem in this chapter, and this is the problem that I think I'm going to put on the test. I'll tell you why, because this problem's big, it's hard, and it includes everything we've done. It's a very good comprehensive problem. Now remember, when I say I'm going to put something on the test, that doesn't mean I might put the whole thing or some smaller portion of it, because I've always got a problem with the test running long. So anyway, this is problem 718. It starts on page 350 and then goes to 351. This is just the part of the problem that's on page 350. It's the intro. And this is, again, Mercer Asbestos. And again, they remove asbestos. They're a removal company. They remove potentially toxic asbestos insulation and the related products from buildings. I don't know if you're familiar with asbestos. It was a fiber. I can't remember when they invented it, but it was considered a kind of a fantastic invention. It's a fiber that makes everything stronger. And they put it in everything. When they first, developed it, they put it in glues and adhesives. They put it in mortar. They put it in some cements. They put it in drywall compounds, plaster. Anything that hardens, if you put asbestos in it, it's a fiber and it helps it become stronger. So I don't know if it was back in the 60s, 50s, 40s when they came out with it, but they put it in tons of stuff. Many times if you're pulling up old tile, or you're taking down some old plaster wall, it'll have asbestos in it, because they didn't know that the fibers destroyed your lungs. They get caught in there and cause you to have lung problems and breathing problems. Anyway, now it costs a lot of money to remove asbestos, and I've done some of it myself, in my day, not too long ago anyway, but this company removes asbestos, and probably there's asbestos in many of the buildings. Academic buildings have all kinds of it. Interestingly enough, it's not dangerous till you start banging on walls and you tear them down. If you just leave it set, it won't hurt you, but once you start tearing something up or cutting into it, you breathe it in, and it causes lung degradation in your lungs. Anyway, this company removes it, and it's pretty expensive to have it removed. There's been a long simmering dispute between the company's estimator, estimator, that's the guy who, and those guys are usually promoted. They're actually higher level than the workers. That's the man or woman who's been there many years and gets promoted to be an estimator. They don't get dirty anymore. They go in and basically try and figure out what it's going to cost. They bid the job. Anyway, this estimator and the workers and the work supervisors, basically they're arguing. The on-site supervisors claim that the estimators, they think they're doing a bad job, do not adequately distinguish between routine asbestos removal. Routine means easy. So these guys are saying, hey, there's some stuff, easy asbestos, you can get out real easy. Such as removal of asbestos insulation. Yeah, that's not too bad, I've done it. Around heating pipes, although sometimes I didn't know that. Sometimes that's worse, getting around a heat pipe. In older homes, and non-recurring work such as removal as asbestos-contaminated ceiling plaster. I have done this, and like I said, sometimes it's amazing. So they have asbestos in adhesives, and sometimes you can remove a floor, and the floor is attached with an adhesive. And again, I'm trying to make some sense of this so the problem has reality. But again, you'll go up, and sometimes the floor will come right up, and you can put a mask on and goggles, and again, you can just throw it away. Other times, the asbestos and the glue are so good that you have to get an air hammer. And even with an air hammer, you just be bah, 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 bah. You'll be there all day trying to break that stuff up. And when the air hammer gets in there, it blows the dust up, so you have much more danger. So again, it's sometimes you can even take down plaster that's very easy. It'll just fall down very easy. Other times you have plaster that's reinforced and got all kinds of wood in it, or they put chicken wire in it to make it stronger. It's just a terrible mess to get it down. So again, that's what the point is. The workers are saying, hey, there's a big difference between some of our removal, and there's, again, there's easy stuff and then there's hard stuff. And the estimator says, oh, I don't really take that into account, because the estimator just really uses, guess what, square feet. In other words, the estimator goes in there and says, it's square feet. We're going to find out on the second page of this problem, he bills it out at $2.50 for every square foot. All right, now I have to go to the next page of this. Bear with me. Okay. You can see this is a big problem. It takes up the entire page. I don't want to get my fingers in the way. Okay, let's try and continue. Anyway, there's this ongoing argument, and the basic premise here is that the estimator says, hey, listen, I bid everything out at $2.50 per square foot. And he makes the point that they've already done the calculation, and it's $2.17.5, $2.17, that's their cost. And you might say, well, what's this mean? It means they took all their costs from last year and divided by all the square footage of asbestos they removed. And it cost them $2.17 on average to remove asbestos. And they charge $2.50. So the estimator says, what are you worried about? It can't possibly go wrong. It costs us on average $2.17, and we bill out, we put a bid in for our $2.50. This system is perfect and we'll always make money. It's dead wrong. I guarantee it's dead wrong. And we'll see that. We'll find out that life isn't so simple that you can take a giant average, a company-wide average, and then apply an average cost to everything and say, I'm going to charge that. It would kind of be the equivalent of saying, I'm going to come up with an average cost to mow a lawn, and I'm going to charge just by square footage. But now we just did that in a previous problem. But remember, what if you go look at a 2,000 square foot yard and another 2,000 square foot yard, and one 2,000 square foot yard doesn't have any trees on it, no rocks, no anything. The other 2,000 square foot yard is on a creek bank, and it's got trees, rocks, boulders, mud, and also it's got a 45-degree angle. So you're really, do you see again that many times in life you have to come up with something that's, doggone it. Sorry about that. Anyway, many times in life, you really have to come up with an activity that reflects complexity. Do you remember in the previous problem where we said we're just going to divide by square feet of a lawn? If you really did that in real life, you'd probably divide by not square feet of a lawn, but hours it takes to mow a lawn. You see, again, we're in a system where I'm teaching you really crude. I'm giving you crude systems here. But again, as you get older, you'll get more sophisticated and say, I know, he taught me, it was a 212 class, he taught me a crude system. But again, we wouldn't do that really. 2 yards are not the same because they're same square footage. Well, again, the same thing. Do you think that every one of the square feet they remove, again, they're going to have a situation here where some of it, I guarantee you, looking at this, sometimes it costs them $4 or $5 to remove a square foot. Other times it might cost them 50 cents. But the average is $2.17. But that does mean you can't use that average on everybody, because again, in some cases you'll underbill a client, in some places you'll overbill a client. And by the way, you won't get away with that, because the client that you overbill just won't take the job. The client you underbill, they'll take the job. And then if you underbill them, you won't make any money, because you didn't know it, you were underbilling. So we'll find out this is a very flawed system. And again, let me see here. They use square feet, as they said. And they're thinking about doing an ABC system. They say basically they're going to implement an ABC system, activity-based cost. And this is what they're going to do. They're going to have one pool. One pool is going to be removing asbestos. Another pool will actually be estimating job and setup. Another pool will be non-routine jobs. And then the fourth pool will be not allocated, other organizational sustaining costs. And there is no measure. By the way, they do tell you again that now we're going to take money and we're going to divide it by this. That we are now discussing in this one, we're talking about the denominator. So they haven't given us any money yet. All we know is these averages. They bill out at $2.50 and $2.17, but they haven't given us any money yet. That's down lower in the problem. But they do tell us, all right, this is what we think. We think that removing asbestos, again, that what drives that cost is square footage. It really would be in real life many times better to use not square feet, but hours of time. Many times hours reflect more difficulty. Again, can you see it that each square foot is not identical, so it might be better to use hours of time. Anyway, though, they're using this is a activity measure that again is a more simple activity measure. Anyway, they say they're going to that last year they used that again. Last year they had 800,000, and I'm going to use all the zeros. At 800,000 square feet that they removed. They also have a cost pool for estimating and job setup. Do you guys, if you ever have one of these contractors come to your house, at least the times I've had them work on my house, sometimes if it's a fairly complex job, they'll spend half a day there. And they'll come back again and again and again through the job. So this really is a significant estimating, and the man or woman who comes there, they don't do any work, that's their job. And then they go back to the office and put about a 20-page bid together. And then they come and check on the work. But again, this is, estimating is a pretty complex job. These are your, estimators, and they usually are men and women who've been promoted to that position. And again, they just say, well, again, there's 500 jobs that we did last year. And we're going to put money in that pool. Then working on non-routine jobs, that's when they're going to put the money in that pool of, again, when they run into asbestos that has chicken wire in it, or asbestos that the glue is so hard still they have to get an air hammer or even a jackhammer sometimes, but sometimes it can just be a big air hammer and go after it. And then the other organization sustaining costs. Now, I do want you to know I've read this problem in advance. Now, they tell you that there's 100 non-routine jobs. One thing that you have to pick up in here is I didn't know when I read the problem, well, does the 500 include the 100? And it does. In other words, they have 500 total jobs a year. That means they have 100 non-routine jobs out of the 500. So we could say it this way. We really could say that the 500 can be broken down into 400 400 routine jobs, and 100 jobs that are not routine. But that's 500, but they're telling you, they have to give you the breakdown sooner or later to know how many there are. Now they're going to go back and they're going to allocate money to these pools. And we've already got there is the denominator. In one denominator is going to be 800,000 square feet. Another denominator is going to be 500 jobs. And then we're going to allocate some of the money we're not going to allocate. Let me stop this and pick up in just a second. I got to change the okay, we continue with 718. Again, this is the asbestos removal company, and here they have, again, the cost for the year. And this really is easy data to get in any company. In other words, what did they spend? You know, again, what went out through their checkbook, through their charge cards, and they show you that, again, they basically spent from last year, this could be a budget or it could be the actual, it does $1,740,000 is what they spent. Now, I don't know if you remember earlier, but before we do anything, let's go back and see what they were doing. They said earlier that they had 800,000 square feet that they were planning on removing. If you divide that, it comes out to $2.17.5. Do you remember that number from earlier? That's their cost. In other words, do you see the simple math they did? That said, here's all the money we spent last year. See what it's on? Wages and salaries. Disposal fees. They got to take this again to a dump, and they got to take it in a special. Usually they have to bag it up special and even coat it so that it won't disperse into the air. Equipment depreciation on all their equipment, on-site supplies, bags, masks, filtrations, all kinds of filters for filtration, air, air systems, office expenses, licensing, insurance. They got to be licensed, they have insurance, probably again a lot of insurance. Anyway, this is their total cost, and they said, all right, let's divide it by 800,000, $21.75. And do you remember what they said? They bill all their customers at $2.50. That's their billable price. So the estimator says, well, listen, if we bill at $2.50 and everything costs us $2.17, well, isn't that going to be 32.5 cents that we make, no matter what? And again, this seems so intuitive. You really, probably, if I hadn't studied accounting, I would completely agree with this even now. I'd say, yeah, that totally makes sense to me. If this is what it costs me to bill out, you're always going to make 32 cents. But what's really going to happen in life? Sometimes you'll have jobs that only cost you 50 cents. It'll be so easy. I've taken out tiles and I've taken out asbestos chimneys, and I'm telling you, sometimes they just popped right out. It took me a couple hours, and I thought, that was so easy. Other times I've sat there with an air hammer going all day. Anyway, or even having to go get a jackhammer. Well, it's a small jackhammer. But anyway, the bottom line there is sometimes it'll cost you 50 cents, and sometimes it'll cost you $6 or $7 because you just can't get the asbestos out. So do you see, if you use $2.50 and you bill somebody $2.50 for a really simple job, you're overbilling them, and you won't get the job. That's probably what will happen. It's such a simple job, you won't get the job because some of your competitors will underbid you. But what if you again have a job that's really hard, it's going to cost you $8 or $9, and you bid out at $2.50? You'll lose money. And guess what you'll do? You'll get that job. You'll put that bid out there that's too low, and the client will say, thank you very much, that's really low, I'll take it. And you'll lose money. So you'll lose your easy customers, and the hard customers you'll underbill, and you really will lose money. And it's actually easier to do than you think. Remember, 70% of small businesses, well, really not quite 70, it's about 2/3. But over a 10-year period, 70% of small businesses go bankrupt or collapse. So it's very hard to keep a business going. It's very easy to make a mistake like this. And then by the time you know you've made it, it's too late. You've already lost enough money and you're desperate. It's easier to do. So anyway, here's all the costs. Here's what they're doing. By the way, even though this wasn't required, I might have you do this on the test. I might have you do this. I might give you the same kind of problem and say, hey, what were they doing? I want you to do it the old way. Go back and show me, how did they do it the old way? What's the old cost and how they bill? Now, they say again they're going to use an ABC costing system. And the ABC costing system, remember, they're going to break it into groups of easy asbestos removal, routine. Remember they called it routine. Then estimating and job setup. Non-routine asbestos. That's the hard stuff where they get into chicken wire and reinforced wood that's reinforced in with the plaster and chicken wire, and sometimes it's even got rebar in there, thin rebar, fencing. Other, we're not going to allocate, and then let's total it up. And we'll do this is going to be a cross foot and a foot. Anyway, let's take a look and start allocating. Again, we know, now take wages and salaries. These men and women who remove the asbestos, they spend 50% of their time, again, removing asbestos. So 50%, again, let's go back, 50% of 300,000 is 150,000 that we're going to put in the asbestos pool, easy asbestos. 10% of the time, they help. Now remember, the wages and salaries in here are of all the men and women, so the estimators are in there too. So 10% of that money should go to estimators, which is 30,000. 30% of that, again, the first one, and we can bring these down here if you like, just to write them down here. This is 300,000. The next one is 700,000. The next one is 90,000. The next one is 50,000. And the next one is 200,000. And the next one is 400,000. And remember, they all add up. This is all the money that the company spent last year. Now we're going to allocate it to these pools and try and come out with a better way of again, charging people. Oh, where was I at? 300,000 times 3 is 90,000. And 10% of 3 is 30,000. And we're not going to allocate that. That's not really the truth. We might not allocate it, but we will charge our customers. We'll have to mark up. You see, again, if we come out with $2.17, we'll mark it up enough that we can cover those costs. Now, disposal. Now, think about disposal fees. You're going to have to run that out. That's a dumpster in there. It's a nut dumpster, but then they're going to have all these special plastic bags, and sometimes they have to spray it to keep any dust from, again, emanating from any of the debris. So again, they've got a lot of disposal fees, and then they have to get rid of their masks and their garments. All that has to be disposed of. But 60% of that is from removing asbestos. 6 times 7 is 420,000. The next one is 0% for setup. All the disposal fees, 40% for, again, non-routine jobs. It's 280,000. And other, they have 0. Let's go with depreciation. Again, they're going to have jackhammers. They're going to have air hammers. They're going to have compressors. They're going to have, probably in some jobs, they're going to have generators because they want to have power. All that takes equipment, and they're going to have trucks and vans that bring it. 4 times 9 is 36,000. What is that? Yeah, that's 36,000. 9 times 5 is 4,500. What's the next one? Disposal fees. I'm on depreciation, aren't I? 20%, 2 times 9 is 18,000. I'm getting a little bit pooped out. And 35%, oh, I don't know what that is. 3 times 3 is 9. 27. I think it's 31,500. I'll double check these at the end. But again, that if you add across, that should add up to the 90,000. By the way, if you can't see this and it's cut off, these just say 100%. These all add up. Remember, to allocate something, you want to allocate 100% of it. We really aren't. We're allocating most of it, but we're putting some of it in this other. What about on-site supplies? Again, those are going to be your masks, your throwaway bags, again, perishable tooling, all your, again, your the bits that you use in jackhammers and the tooling. On 50,000, 6 times 5 is 30. 3 times 5 is 15. 10 times, that's 5,000. And 0%, is that what that is? 0 right there. Now let's jump down here. 200,000 times, office expenses. You know what those are going over. There's a lot. 20,000 for those. They spend what, about 10% of their time on the routine asbestos, 35% on estimating. That makes sense to me. It really would make sense to me that it'd be bigger. What do we say here? That's wrong. 10% of that's 20. 35% of that's 70. Oops. Isn't it? Yeah. 25% of that is going to be 50,000. And what do we got here? 30% of the office expenses can't be allocated to those pools, so 3 times 260. I hope that all adds up. Licensing and insurance, 400,000, very expensive, and the insurance too is probably expensive. 3 times 4, 120,000. Seems like more should go in that pool. 0 for, again, estimating, and 50% looks like they're going to allocate to those non-routine jobs. So that's going to be 50% of that is 200,000. And then 20%, 2 times 4 is 80. All right, we'll cross-flip these. I'm going to use a cheat sheet just to make sure I got them all right. Let's see here, 718, 150, 420, 36, 30, 20,000, 120, I got that. 776,000 is our total. This one's 30, 0, 45, 15, 70, 0. This is going to be 119,500. 90, 280, 18, 5, 50, 200. That's going to be 643,000. And 30, 0, 31, 5, 0, 60, 80, 201,500. And then if we cross-flip these, you know, I don't know if I do this on a test, but this last column, if you cross-flip, there are 300,000. I think I'm missing a 0 there. 300,000. This should come up to 700,000. This should come up to 90,000. This should come up to 50,000. 200,000. 400,000. And then these will foot and cross foot both ways, 1,740,000. You see again that these tie out. You see this 379,524, 379,524. There's your totals. You've allocated them now to the pools. After you've allocated them, get the totals should tie out. This is called footing, and this is called cross footing. Anyway, we've got it allocated now. I'm going to guess that's step 1. That's what they asked us to do first. And so we are done. This is just part 1. Now I'm going to guess in part 2, I can't see part 2 down there, but I'm going to guess that they're going to say go ahead and make the calculation. Start making the calculations and calculate some job costs. Let me pause the tape and I'll come back and start there. Okay, we're back online. All right, so this is the same problem. I've just shifted it up so we can see everything. This is what's required. Using everything we've seen before, it says perform first stage allocation. We've got that. That's right here. It is done. We've done the first stage allocation, so there's 1. Let's see, drop down here and do part 2. In part 2, it says using Exhibit 7.7 as a guide, compute the activity rates for the activity cost pools. I can't get back up there, but I think I can remember what they were. Do you remember again? They said how many square foot did they do? They did 800,000 square feet. That was, again, that's the activity. We're going to take 800,000 square feet into 776,000. That was given earlier in the problem. They said estimating and job setup. I truly can't remember that. What was that? 500 jobs. I do remember. There's 500 jobs. This was feet. These were jobs. All right, non-routine asbestos. There was 100 of these jobs, and that's what they're going to use. These are, again, very crude. I don't think I'd use square feet. I'd use hours of work. Here, I would, again, use hours of estimator time. Here, I would, again, use hours of work. I would almost always use hours of work whenever you're working, because usually an hour is a good measure. An hour reflects, again, if it's a hard job, it'll take you 2 hours. But let's say you work 3 jobs. Well, 3 jobs are 3 jobs on your fingers. But again, if you say one of those jobs took me 8 hours, one of them took me 1 hour, and one took me 2 hours. You see, the hours clearly reflect the work. But jobs by themselves, just saying I worked 3 jobs does. If I came up to you and said I worked 3 jobs, that gives you no detail. But if I tell you the hours, you've got a much better base. The hours reflect a duration. By the way, they call that in your chapter, they call an hour a duration driver. And it's better. It's a better driver than usually, again, just these are called counting drivers. They're just numeric counters. But a duration driver uses time. 100 jobs, we're not going to allocate this. And they want us to come up with the rates. Well, let's go ahead and get the rates. In this case, let's do $776,000. Whoops, 776 divided by 800. That's 97 cents. So this is equal to 97 cents per foot. 500 jobs, again, these are all jobs. This is the cost. Now, this really wouldn't be affected by a hard or an easy job. Well, it would be. I don't like this base. Anyway, let me see. We got 119,500 divided by 500 jobs. It costs us $239 to bid a job. You might think that's off, but it really is pretty pricey to have those. Those guys are expensive, and they'll go back and do all kinds of paperwork. You might get a 20-page bid. You know, materials, labor, timing, the chronology of how they're going to do it. 100 jobs into this, that's just going to be what? Move my desk. This is going to be move the decimal place twice. So 100 into this will be $6,430 to do a complex job. This is per job, by the way. This is, by the way, per the job. So it costs 97 cents to remove simple asbestos, easy, routine asbestos. It costs $239 to bid a job. It costs $6,430 to do what? A non-routine asbestos removal, and we're not going to try and allocate this. All right, great. Now what do they want us to do? That's part 2. This, again, first stage allocation. This is computing the activity rates to cost something out. And 3, let's see what they want us to do. 3, using the activity rates you have computed, determine the total cost and the average cost. Whoops. Determine the total cost and the average cost for each of the following jobs. So they want us to cost, oh gosh, that's kind of busy, isn't it? All right. They want us to cost both the total cost on each of these jobs and the per foot cost. And A, we're going to do 3A is a routine 1,000 square foot job. So let's do 3A. And 3A is going to be 1,000 square feet. That's times 97 cents a foot. So that's going to be $970. And then also, it's one job. And one job costs us $239 to bid it. So that's $239. And it says that it's a routine. So this is not a hard one. So we don't have to put in any of this. This non-routine, this is the hard, a non-routine job. So now we know these two together cost, let me see, $1,209. Okay, so 1,000 square foot job costs, I just added these together. This is again your square footage. This is to bid it, 1,209. What do they ask us to do here in B? B says a routine 2,000 square foot job. All right, let's do this, a routine one. All right. So we got a routine 2,000 square foot job times 97 cents. What's that going to be? 2 times 9 is 18, $19,040, I think, isn't it? 2 times 8, yeah, I think. So 2,000 times 9, and then one job you get a bid, and that's a bid is still going to cost $239, so that's $239, and then I'll total that up, and that'll be again 9, 7, 11, and $2,179. Okay, and then C, let's see what they ask us to do. C, do a non-routine 2,000 square foot job. Okay, this is the bad news. See, and this is again, normal, non-routine. This is the hard one. All right, so we'd say, all right, a 1, did they say it? It's a 2,000. Okay, this is going to be 2,000. 2,000 times 97 cents. Now you might say, hold it, that's wrong. But the job, the way we did this, the way we set it up is that again, all square footage is again, the 8,000 square foot includes all work, all the work they did. So you see, if they work on a, again, any job, it's still going to cost them 97 cents, no matter what, because we took all square footage. In other words, what's in this rate is both the square footage for easy and hard. So again, that looks the same. It's still 1,940. Then we also have the job bid. That's 1 times $239. That's the job bid, $239. And then we have we have to take this. It costs us $6,430, again, every time we run into one of these extra hard jobs. 6,430 is equal to 6,430. And we'll add this, and I don't know what this is going to be, $9 for, that's going to be 10, here we go, 4, 13, 14, 15, 16, 6, 7, I think it's going to be $8,609. I'll double check my math on this. 1,209, 1,000, yeah, that's right, 1,209. I have a cheat sheet over here in case you can't see it. And then 2,179, that's right. And then 8,609, that's right. All right, so here we did 3A, B, and C. Now at first you just say, you know what, I can't see much of a relationship here, but in a minute you will be able to. Let's go back. Remember on this problem it said they want us to do the total cost, but they also said they want the average cost per square foot. Let's go back and do that, and we'll really see what's going on here. Again, this was, let's go back and take this one, all of it, divide this. Let's start with black. Divide this. Remember, this was a 1,000 square foot job. This will be pretty easy. That's going to be, I think, $1.20. We really could just make it $1.21. Do you see? We can round that up. It's $1.21. Let's do the blue. Let's divide this by 2,000 square feet. And this one I'm going to have to do 2179, 2179 divided by. This comes out to be $1.09. And finally, let's take the hard job. Divide this, it was a 2,000 square foot job. Well, 8609 divided by 2,000 is equal to $4.30. All right, I think that's it. All right, now this really should give us a good relationship. Should be able to see everything. I'll get out of the way. I know I'm in the way. What's happening here? What can we finally see? What does it cost us per square foot to do a simple job? I'm going to tilt this just a little bit more my way because I know I'm. What does it cost us to do a simple job? it only costs us $1.21 to work on simple asbestos removal. What if we get a bigger, simple job? A bigger, simple job only costs us $1.09. Why? Do you see what's happening is that, again, the fixed cost. Do you remember how fixed cost, when volume goes up, what happens to, again, fixed costs? They go down per unit. Remember we've learned that? Well, you see this is a fixed cost, the $239. In other words, it saves $239 each job. So again, the bigger the job. So if we get a 2,000 square foot job, it's only $1.09. Remember what we're bidding out at? Remember earlier in the problem we said again that they had calculated a company-wide cost of $2.17 and they bill out at $2.50. See how far off we are? Look, it's $1.21 to remove simple asbestos, not $2.17. And it's $1.09 if it's a bigger job, not $2.17. And look what happens when we run into complex asbestos. We're at $4.30. It costs us way more than $2.17. Do you see how really crude and useless this number is? Simply put, you sometimes can't use a company-wide average for anything because all jobs are not the same. Well, in some industries, all jobs may be the same. But I think in most industries, all jobs are not the same. Each job is unique and has its own complexity. In this case, so we can see that, again, what's going to happen in general. Well, this company, if it gets easy jobs and bids them out at $2.50 a square foot, it won't get that bid, it won't get that job. That customer will say, you're overbid, I'll get somebody cheaper. So this company will not get easy work. They'll be underbid, and appropriately so, they'll be underbid by other people. Then what's going to happen with more complex work? They'll go out and they'll bid $2.50 a square foot to take out complex, hard, or what do they call it, non-routine. When they get non-routine or complex asbestos removal, they're going to bid it at $2.50, and they're going to get that job because they've underbid. Ignorantly, they've underbid. They didn't know. So now they're going to get that job, and what are they going to do? They're going to lose. Every square foot they remove, $2.50, it really costs them $4.30. They're going to lose about $1.20 per foot. Isn't that right, $2.50? No, it's more than that. Anyway, they're going to lose almost $2 a foot. Yeah, almost, I think, $1.70 a foot. Anyway, they're going to lose almost $1.70 a foot every time they do this. So, what's going to have as a pattern, it's going to have a pattern of they will not get bids. They will not get bids acceptable to the clients. The clients will not accept bids on easy stuff. And guess what? Clients will accept the bids on the hard stuff. Their work will naturally shift. And they'll get all hard stuff, and they'll lose money very fast. So again, it's a recipe for, again, another business that will not succeed. Given the results you obtained in 3 above, do you agree with the estimator that the company's present policy for bidding on jobs is adequate? Do I agree? I would say, I think that in this case, you can go look at the answer, but let's try and verbally say it. First of all, we'd say we do not agree with the estimator that the company's present policy of bidding on jobs is adequate. Let me say that again. We do not agree with the estimator that the company's present policy for bidding on jobs is adequate. We do not agree that bidding $2.50 on each job will be an effective way to bill our customers. Not only is it ineffective, it's unfair. In some cases, we will be overbidding. We will be overbidding and overcharging our customer for very simple asbestos removal. In some cases, we will be underbidding complex work. Again, we're going to underbid on any complex work. We're going to grossly underbid, and we'll get that work. And that's not fair to us. So in some cases, we will overbid, and other places we'll underbid. In either case, we're going to lose our easy customers, and we're going to retain hard customers, and we're going to lose money on our hard customers. This is a problem that shows you that a costing system can cause you to really have financial problems. It's really good if you do understand these. Now, as I told you earlier, a good old boy or a good old girl who's been working their whole life doing asbestos removal, all this stuff is in their head. They don't need any of it. The problem is you might not be. All right, just a 30-second wrap up. Again, as I was saying, somebody who's been in business for 20 or 30 years, they know this, it's in their head. They simply have spent so many years working in asbestos removal that they don't need any of this. But that certainly is a hard way to learn, to again have to spend 20 or 30 years. If you're young coming into this, it's so much nicer if you have this knowledge, when you're young and can apply it. Anyway, this problem does ask us one fourth question. It says, given the results you obtained in 3 above, do you agree with the estimator that the company's present policy for bidding is adequate? Again, the estimator says, I think we have a good policy for bidding. Remember, this guy or girl bids $250. Do we agree with that? I think we would, hopefully you would say, I do not agree with the estimator. I do not agree with the estimator that the company's present policy for bidding on jobs is adequate. In fact, it is inadequate. It is inaccurate. Not only inadequate, but it is inaccurate. You could put a period there and say, the problem is that in many cases, the system results in underbidding or overbidding. It basically underbids hard work and overbids easy work. If you overbid the easy work, you're not going to get it. If you underbid the hard work, you are going to get it. Only the problem is when you underbid it, you'll lose money. So this is going to result in a tremendous financial stress on a company, and if they don't realize it in time, they will go out of business. This is a good example of how smart you have to be, even if you're doing something where you say, well, just I'm doing grunt work, I'm taking asbestos out. But you still have to be smart enough to come up with a system where you bill people fairly to stay in business. Anyway, we're done with this problem. We're done with Chapter 7, and the next video will be on Chapter, I don't think we do, yeah, we do Chapter, I think Chapter 8 will be on budgeting. So we'll pick it up on budgeting.